This is Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella. On May 31st, Pope Benedict appointed 9 prelates, including the archbishops of New York and Boston, to investigate child abuse allegations in Ireland's Catholic institutions. Now, the Pope urged the Irish Church to support the investigation, saying it could be a chance for hope and renewal. And in mid-May, a crowd estimated at 150,000 crowded St. Peter's Square as a show of support for the Pope over the clerical sex abuse scandal. We're pleased to be joined by the co-author of the new book, Pope Benedict XVI and the Sexual Abuse Crisis, Gregory Erlandson. He's the president and publisher of Our Sunday Visitor Publishing Company. It's one of the largest Catholic publishers in the world. Welcome to Newsmax, Gregory.
It's great to be here, Ashley.
We heard about this stuff for a very long time now, but just how rampant is the problem today?
Well, that's actually a very good and somewhat complicated question. The problem is what we're hearing are the reports that are accumulation over a long period of time. In the United States, the investigation is going back 50 years. In the most recent audit, there was only 6 cases reported of alleged clergy sexual abuse in 2009, according to the outside auditors. But overall, the number of cases being studied is somewhere on the scale of about 11,000. So that goes back 50 years, involves a little over 4,000 priests. So that gives you a sense of the scale. Just to add a little perspective to that, there's reportedly about 200,000 cases of sexual abuse a year in the United States. So this is a problem for society, not only for the Catholic Church, but for the larger society.
You say there's a rush by some, both inside and outside the Church, to place direct blame on the Pope. Please tell us who's finger-pointing and why.
Well, I think there's a couple of different reasons for this. One is there is an American tendency to want to find someone at the top and figure out should that person be fired for what they've been doing. And we want to have accountability, and that's been frustrated in many cases here. In addition to that, there are people who are trying to sue the Vatican and to tie the Vatican in to some of the cases that happen in the United States. So there is a legal strategy at work here, and some of the journalists, I think, have been doing reporting that has been to a certain extent fed by lawyers who are building this case. And then there's a third factor to take into account, which is that there are Catholics who have agendas at work here who feel that the Church has either been too lax or too conservative, and they've been weighing in with criticisms of Pope Benedict specifically and overall the Church's handling of the crisis.
To what extent is Pope Benedict culpable, if at all, in your opinion?
I don't believe that he is culpable. I believe that Pope Benedict is, in fact, the right man for the job right now. He has an extraordinary knowledge through the time that he was head of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, and particularly since 2001, he may be the person most knowledgeable about all of the cases worldwide that were being reported to the Vatican from 2001 on. In addition to that, I feel that he's not only talking the talk but walking the walk. In other words, he's been addressing the issue forthrightly. He has issued numerous apologies. He's met with the victims. He's also been accepting the resignations of bishops, and he has been encouraging the churches, the local churches, to face up to this problem. So I think he's really been providing some good leadership in this area, and one of the ironies of this controversy is the fact that some would like to see him be the fall guy when in fact he may be the one who can lead us out of this morass.
And as we mentioned in the open, the Pope appointed 9 prelates to get to the bottom of the scandal in Ireland. Is he not getting credit where credit is due here?
I think you're right. He is not getting credit where credit is due. And I think Ireland is a good example of that. He issued a letter in March, letter to the Catholics of Ireland, which is an extraordinary papal document. I've been covering the papacy in one form or another since 1980, and I'd say this is the most extraordinary document I've seen in the fact that it is so plain-spoken and it is so heartfelt. But he's also called in the Irish bishops. He's talked to them privately, he's addressed them publicly, he's encouraged the Church to face up to these problems. He's accepted the resignations of several Irish bishops. And this investigation now is not so much the Irish government has conducted a very thorough investigation and independent Irish commissions. What this is doing is looking at how the Church has handled it, what steps the Church has taken, where it should improve, what changes it should still make going forward.
Considering all the cases we hear of church sexual abuse, you consider Pope Benedict the right person for the job. So is he having an impact? Is he making a difference?
I think he is having an impact. I think he's making it clear to the worldwide church and to the leaders that we have to address this forthrightly, that there has to be transparency, that we have to tell the truth, even when the truth puts us in a bad light. And I think that signal is being sent out to the bishops around the world, to the priests and to the laity. Now, obviously, there's a lot of wounds, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of guilt on the part of some, and so this is not an easy thing to do. Contrary to stereotypes of the Catholic Church, the Pope does not snap his fingers and all the Catholics ask how high they should jump. It's a very complex organization, but he is providing the leadership. And I think we're seeing that particularly in Europe, where scandals have come out in various countries, from Austria to Sweden to Italy to Spain. They're being dealt with very directly now. And one additional point, actually, they are also looking to the United States. The United States implemented very stringent requirements and rules in 2002. At the time, many people worried that they were too strict or the church was overreacting. Now those pieces of legislation are becoming models for how other churches should be responding.
We hear of trained psychologists and psychiatrists swooping in to treat sex offenders. Is the church qualified to fix this problem, and is it using effective techniques, do you feel, in addressing the situation appropriately?
Well, that's a great question, because I think that's part of the problem. Is I think that for a period of time, with the rise of psychology and the belief that psychologists or psychiatrists could address just about any problem, there was an over-reliance on them. One of the little-known facts or lost facts of this is that canon law has always made clear that this is a wrong. This is a wrong according to church law as well as according to civil law. But I think there was this sense at some point that this could be treated therapeutically. That somehow, if people, perhaps they were drinking too much, they were overstressed, that was why they got in these cases of abuse, and therefore it should be treated in some sort of pastoral manner, or it should be treated somehow in a therapeutic manner. I think we've paid a very steep price for doing that. And I think now we're moving back more to the fact of we have to address this as a wrong. There may be a therapeutic alternative somewhere down the line, but that really is not the church's expertise. We are not psychiatrists, but we do know there's a moral wrong here, and that moral wrong has to be addressed.
Finally, just how much has the sex abuse scandal damaged the church, and can it ever fully recover?
Well, ever is a long time, but I think it's damaged it a great deal, and I think the Pope is quite aware of this. I think he's aware that this may be a defining moment in his papacy. It must be terrible for someone like him, who is such a brilliant theologian, who has labored so long for the church in so many different roles, to know that when he finally dies, most likely in the first paragraph of that obituary, there'll be some mention of the sexual abuse crisis. But I think even though the church has been very wounded, I think this is a necessary fire that we're passing through. Terrible mistakes were made. There was cover-ups on local levels. There was people being transferred, crimes that were not dealt with adequately, and we're paying a high price for that, and we have to pay a high price. And I think that the Pope Benedict himself makes that clear. But I do think we'll get through this. This is not the worst crisis that's ever faced the church. We've had many other crises, and unfortunately many of them have been self-inflicted. But we do get beyond them, and we do find ways to renew ourselves and reform ourselves.
Once again, the name of the book, Pope Benedict and the Sexual Abuse Crisis. Gregory Erlandson, thank you so much, and good luck with your book.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.